This is Mike Manjos, Chairman, Board of Finance. Good evening. This is 15th, 7 p.m. I hereby call Board of Finance budget meeting to order. Please allow me to confirm those members, staff, and anticipated participants present and can hear me. I will also ask the moderator to confirm the individual identity of each aforementioned participant. Members, when I call your name, please respond with the affirmative. John, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I kept getting muted by the system for some reason. Yeah, I'm here, sorry.
Craig Hirsch?
Here.
Steve Kirsch?
Here.
Dane? Dane, where's Dane? Dane's, there you are in the corner there. Okay. And Rebecca?
Here.
We also have First Selectman Ken Kellogg.
I'm here.
Heidi Mead, Deputy Director of Finance.
Here.
Ron Manowski, Director of Finance.
Here.
And who am I missing? Joe Cobsworth is there. I thought I saw him there earlier.
I'm here, Mike. Yeah, thank you.
Good job. Terrific. Okay. I think that's everybody we are anticipating. I hereby declare we have a quorum and call this meeting to order. A copy of the agenda and any related materials have been posted and can be found on the Town of Monroe's website.
Can you text David to come eat?
I'm sorry? Sorry. On the town's website, www.monroect.org for public inspection. The public meeting is being conducted remotely in compliance with Section 1 of Governor Lamont's Executive Order 7B, dated March 14th, 2020, using GoToMeeting electronic conferencing technology. Using this technology, the public will participate in real time in meeting via computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone using the access information set forth on the meeting agenda. Please be advised that each meeting has unique participation information, so please be sure you have accessed the correct meeting. Notice is hereby given that only 250 participants may access this remote electronic public meeting at one time. Access to this meeting using this technology is granted solely by the technology provider on a first access basis and is not controlled by the Town of Monroe. While it's anticipated we will not exceed this participation limit for this meeting, due to the pier, we are approaching said limit so that any member of the public is denied access to this meeting. I, as chairman, reserve the right to adjourn and continue the meeting at a later date using technology appropriate to ensure all members of the public may participate. Please take notice of the following regarding this remote electronic public meeting: that this meeting is being conducted in real time. This meeting is open to the public, that any member of the public may listen or view this meeting anonymously, that this meeting is being recorded. And while we ask you mute your microphones unless recognized to speak, anything you say, do, or displayed on your screen may become part of the recording. That the recording will be posted on the town's website within 7 days. The recording should be made available to the public within a reasonable time. The meeting should follow standard parliamentary procedures. However, I ask participants to follow the special rules. In addition, please mute your microphone so as to reduce background noise anytime you're not speaking. Prior to speaking on each occasion, please clearly state the name and title for the record. The use of the chat feature is prohibited and will not be considered during this meeting. This meeting will not feature public participation. All right. We are ready to go. Review of the minutes and voting record for April 30th. Want to make a motion?
Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and voting records for April 30th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll ask for all those in favor. Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Dane?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Terrific. All right. Workshop. So I only have a couple things I want to cover tonight. And let's just start with the easy stuff. So in the packet, there's been a couple of things presented. One was the update on the capital reserve. I know we covered all these adjustments the last time, and I think that's an updated number now, including Chromebooks, the lab, the air packs, the virtual server hardware, leaving that in the capital reserve. So that brought us to the 121.5 number. If everybody had a chance to review that. Heidi's bringing it up for us. Perfect. So any further discussions on this, or we think we can put this one to bed? And actually, before we go much further, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning. So basically, from my understanding, Ken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, our schedule is basically we need to have this budget back to Ken on Wednesday.
So yeah, the pursuant with the governor's order and the town council resolution, the Board of Finance has to finalize their proposed budget by May 20th. It will then be published on the website, a summary in a newspaper. You'll continue to receive input, and then there would be a subsequent meeting that you would have to conduct between June 2nd and June 5th to actually adopt the budget.
The budget. Okay, perfect. So what I would like to propose is I'm going to ask Heidi to bring up the model once we get there, plug in some of the adjustment we talked about. I want to have a little bit of discussion with Superintendent Cobb, so we talked earlier today. And then I would like us to have, if possible, a meeting on Tuesday night to actually do the voting on, line by line like we typically do, which will give Heidi time to roll all this together and get the motions ready and put it all in order. We've discussed with the town attorney, and apparently we can do it as a one motion. Ken, is that what you were letting me know?
Yeah, First Selectman Ken Kellogg speaking. Yeah, I did consult with Mr. Lito, and he confirmed that it would be appropriate that if the board, we can prepare for the board's, based on your direction, the board's collective direction, a single resolution that would certainly include all of the line items that you normally vote on, but as one resolution, you could subsequently certainly either read it or vote to waive the reading of the full resolution. That would then allow you to, entertain that resolution and still preserve the rights of anyone to amend that resolution at any point, should someone want to make such motion.
Okay. What is everybody's feeling on that? Is that a decent plan for everybody? Well, first of all, is everybody available on Tuesday? I would assume it wouldn't be a very long meeting, but we could wrap up Tuesday and then come back early June to do the final vote.
Steve Kirk, Board of
John
Finance.
Vice Chair.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I'm available on Tuesday night.
Okay. John?
Yeah, John Chesney, Vice Chair. Yeah, Tuesday's good, and I like the idea of one resolution and waive the reading. All good stuff.
All good stuff. All right. Greg?
This is Craig. I agree, and I am available on Tuesday.
Right. Dane?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I agree with that. I'm available on Tuesday night.
Terrific.
Are you thinking 6?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Rebecca?
Yes, I'm in agreement, and Tuesday is good for me too.
Perfect. Okay. So again, we've got some proposed adjustments that were also put in there that finance worked on, and Ken also worked very hard putting together some extra things for us, which is great, and greatly appreciate all his efforts in this interim period when, technically it's with us, but he's been doing all the heavy lifting for us, which is terrific. So we appreciate that. One of the things that I wanted to get on the record, because obviously there's a lot of concern with education, there's a lot of uncertainty, and here we are in May, certainly not where we thought we would be starting in March. I'm not convinced we're going to know where we're going to be in August. So we are going to pass a budget. I think the approach we're taking makes perfect sense. Just to be clear with everybody, despite some of the readings that we had to do, we are not cutting education. We are not slashing things. We are asking every town employee to take a 0 increase. And we're going to reflect a budget that would factor that in. It's a difficult ask, I get it. But in these times and in this environment, and when I see the unemployment number again today, and this is with the PPP in place, what happens, in 6 weeks when that money runs out? How many more unemployed people are we going to have? It's a bad situation. So I truly believe that we need to do this. I think we need the unions to come and support that decision, and God willing, hopefully not have to cut staff. And that would be the ideal situation. And that's the approach we're taking. I know it's risky to use fund balance to the level that I proposed, and I think everybody agreed to. It's a risky strategy because, we are mortgaging the future, but I believe that in a year we'll be in a much stronger place, and I think it will work out. And it's a risk I'm willing to take while not willing to just cut hash staff. A lot of people have reached out to me and said, just cut everything 10% and be done with it. I don't think that's the right approach. So we did not take that approach. And I think it's important for people to know that that is the approach we could have taken. I just saw an article someone sent me an hour ago saying the governor of California asked for all state workers to take a 10% pay cut. This is not an unusual request, and it's not an unreasonable request. Now, that being said, we still have a lot of unknowns. I had a good chat with the superintendent today, and both of us agree that there are going to be additional costs going back to school. There are a lot of unknowns. We don't know what those are. I'm hoping that in some of the relief that'll come from the federal government or the state government, they will allow us to apply for COVID grants and apply for COVID reimbursements. But until we have any idea about that, we can't make decisions on that. So the two of us discussed, and I believe both agreed, and I'll let him speak to it as well, that we think it's important to know that we might come back to having more discussions come August and September because there might be things that change. I don't know that we can accurately put a budget together in this unknown things that can anticipate all the unknowns that we're facing. There's chances that school doesn't start up on time. There's chances that special requirements are going to take. There are going to be extra expenses. I know it. We just have no idea what that plan is. And until we have a formulated plan, we can't anticipate every unknown. So we are willing to talk down the road, or certainly I am, to know that there are going to be things that come up. So, our door is open to the superintendent to come knock on it whenever he knows what his plan is, and we're going to be there to support it. But we need to make these moves now, and not only on the Board of Ed side, but on the town side. And, I know it's difficult decisions, but I'm very proud of this team. I think everybody has worked exceedingly hard to come up with these concepts, to work the numbers. I mean, finance has been running models like crazy. I mean, the hours they always work this time of year, but this year especially is much more stressful because they're much harder decisions to be made. So anybody else is happy to chime in. Joe, I'm happy to have you give us some input on your side and what you're seeing. And if that accurately explains our conversation.
It does. Yeah. The only thing, Mike, you didn't give me your address so I could knock on your door.
I'm easy to find.
I appreciate that. And, I definitely want to, express my concerns. I'm definitely concerned. It's uncertain to say the least. I keep telling everyone that, we're trying to create a budget for a model that existed last year and most likely look very different next year. And I think you just kind of, just hit the nail on the head with that. There's, a lot of unknowns. We're still waiting on guidance for graduation, for Pete's sake, from the state, let alone, the opening of next school year. And the more I talk to superintendents in the region, we're all faced with the same reality of, more questions than answers. We did receive a little unofficial, this isn't out yet, but we did receive a little unofficial guidance on extended school year. So that's summer school for our students. Right. That again, unofficially came out today. It's nothing on paper yet, but gave me a little preview of what we might expect with an opening. And it's definitely concerning. They're talking about for extended school year, the preliminary guidance and classroom calls for 1 staff member for 5 kids, working with our students with the greatest needs. most of our really, higher special education needy students. One staff member for 10 students with less significant needs. They talked about guidance on transportation, saying no more than 10 kids on a bus with seats taped off to enforce kind of diagonal seating, masks for everyone, students and staff, additional sanitizing procedures, temperature checks, and so on. Now, does this mean this is what it's going to look like in the fall? I don't know. There's so many factors at play. We haven't really, even begun to address the learning loss and services that we're going to be facing. Our teachers have done a great job, absolutely amazing with distance learning, but we know that distance learning isn't it's not the answer. It doesn't replace the efficacy of in-person instruction. I know you were just saying about you're sharing your own child's experiences. It's different, and we know it's not as effective. It's not even as effective for us to run meetings and have complex conversations like this. So I appreciate the idea that you are keeping the door open. I wish I had the answers right now, because I know it would help make your job a little bit easier as we make some of these important decisions. And I'm committed to keeping the dialogue open. Since I started, I've been to, I think, every one of your meetings. I'll continue to be so.
And we appreciate that. I mean, it doesn't go unnoticed. I mean, it's, we've certainly had a lot of conversations, and you certainly have been as active and attentive as anybody we've that goes a long way, and be honest and be forthright. I mean, we won't always, but we certainly want to hear, because you certainly have more expertise in this than we do.
Yeah.
But again, I think the thing that people have to understand is there's nobody on this board, or honestly in town hall at all, or involved in any of this, that doesn't support education 100%. And everybody wants the best for our kids. So, sometimes it's hard to listen through some of the comments where people direct that, there's no hostility, there's no negativity towards anything here. We're just trying to work through a budget that's reasonable, that, based on our, the thing that scares me greatly is, 20% of the people being unemployed. I mean, we could get there. I mean, it's a terrifying number. I mean, ever handled anything like that? And what you guys are trying to handle is unprecedented as well. So as long as we're trying to all sacrifice a little and be positive and go forward together, then I think we can get through this.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem. No, I appreciate that.
Mike, Steve Kirsch.
Please, Steve.
Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance. So a couple of things. Number one, I really want to get clear on the salary freezes, both the Board of Ed and Town Hall, and number one, where we stand. Number two, if that were to take place across all the bargaining units across the whole town, everybody, how much money are we talking about saving in total?
It's on this spreadsheet, and we'll go through that line by line.
It's on here? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They've done a great job breaking it out for us line by line, and then we can also some other ones, but those are the savings that will be reflected.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, I am still concerned with the reductions to the Board of Ed. I've said it on several meetings. There's nothing. I mean, I have these concerns pre-virus issue. I look at the restoration list provided to us by Joe and company, and I'm looking at the first, let's say 5 items, give or take, maybe about $550,000 worth. There's nothing in there that to me isn't going to be necessary next year. The idea of cutting maintenance, cutting staff, cutting a custodian, I just don't understand, given everything we're hearing about the students' needs, how at least that first handful can't, that can stand. And I don't know where else the board makes up that money. I understand it would create a bigger hole. I understand that we're taking more money from the fund balance that I ever thought we would ever do.
Me too.
But, I sort of have two issues. One is if we're doing that, then, you know, another 500,000 may not be that big. And the other thing that I just have to drive home is I would be willing, if, you know, we could get the concessions on the salaries and stuff, to put, like I say, about 540,000 back in, because I just think it's absolutely necessary. I just don't think you can take that kind of stuff out, given that we're probably going to need, you know, additional stuff given what we know about the virus. I mean, that's just where I'm at.
Fair enough. John, where are you at?
I'm not going to repeat a lot of what Steve said about the concessions. I think that's a big part of it. I think where we are is good. If Joe came back and said we really need this stuff, I'd be open to consider what Steve just said about, you know, adding some of it back in. So Joe, it's up to you if you want to lobby for any of that. But I mean, it sounded like you were comfortable where we were before, so I would be comfortable as well.
Yeah, and I think my feeling would be, honestly, is obviously in, you know, August, September, October, you know, we'll have a much better picture of where we're at. And if, you know, if after we get through July and August, our collections are coming in much greater than expected, again, I'm willing to have any conversation there is. I just think it'd be very hard to add anything more in right now with so much unknown. But nothing prevents us from taking a second bite at the apple. You know, it's just a special appropriation and it's got to go through the process. But I think everybody would understand, and I would be happy. That's why I did leave the door open with the Board of Ed, because I don't think Joe has a very good idea right now of what he needs. I mean, how could you? There's so much unknown on what the situation is going to look like coming back that, you know, a custodian could be the least of his worries. How would he prioritize until he knows what his plan is? And I don't think he's going to know that till certainly late summer. That's my opinion on it. So yeah, Steve, I get your point, and I wouldn't say you're crazy, but I just think it's very hard to put a number or a prioritization on anything that had already come out, because I think priorities on everything have changed dramatically. You know, priorities might be more tech right now than they are on a custodian cleaning a building that we might not be occupying. Who knows? So I think until we do that, to make any further changes doesn't make sense to me, but I understand your concerns and I appreciate your raising.
Yeah. Mike, this is Craig. I was just going to say exactly that we were open to listen, you know, come August, come September, you know, definitely. But I think it's more prudent to wait and see and then react to what the needs are, because it might be, who knows, it might be a bigger number that we might be listening to than just this, you know. So I feel that I like that approach where we will wait and see what the needs are for the school and then act accordingly to their needs. And, you know, I'd be glad to, you know, stop and listen to Joe.
Right. Okay. Rebecca?
Yeah, I agree. I think when that was mentioned in our past meeting, it was what gave me a sense of calm that, you know, we can make a decision today and yet we could still have a conversation down the road. So I do think that's probably the smartest way to go about this right now, just because it's so unknown and everything is so fluid. I think I heard today that the state was awarded, you know, 99 million or so, but for Title I schools. So there's federal dollars are coming out, and it's just a matter of figuring all that out. And it's just not happened yet.
Correct. And I think there could be COVID funds. So, I mean, again, that will all affect our decision making.
Right. So I'm good. I'm good. I'm confident in what we're doing.
Dane?
I agree. I'd rather wait because of all the unknowns, see where we are in a few months, and, you know, address it again then.
Okay. Steve, does that approach make sense to you? I mean, you know. I think you're definitely bringing up valid points, but I think everybody's, kind of feeling that sense of unknown makes it hard right now.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm in the minority, but if we're saying that we may end up needing even more, then to me you could restore a part of this, and that still wouldn't get you all the way. My other concern, frankly, would be the next year, right? These are not things that, forget the virus, assuming the virus goes away, assuming we get back to normal a year from now. The other concern I have is everything that we take out this year and everything that we fund through extraordinary means like the fund balance is stuff that we're going to have to put back in with a tax increase in the 21 year, 21, 22. And, so I'm concerned. Again, I would leave it up to Joe if he wants to tell us and fight for one of these top items or not. Then I certainly would defer to him. This was the list that they provided in terms of restoration. But I'm just raising the concern. If we get funds from the state, that's great. My other concern is by August, if we need to hire somebody, is that too late? But again, I'm going to defer to Joe and his team.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Steve, you have the list right out in front of you?
I do.
And number one is the maintenance.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that one definitely, that definitely concerns me a lot, obviously. And again, I mean, I hear the point completely. We could be talking about maintenance for buildings that aren't being used. So, maybe not. But if we're in, I'm definitely, I mean, we gutted the heck out of maintenance. You sat through the budget workshops. So, that is a big concern of ours. And obviously, if we are back in some kind of a hybrid model, I imagine it's going to be taxing to get that money back in. I'm sorry, to have those services in without the funds to support it. So, I'm in a weird position. I would want all of that stuff back, quite honestly. But if we're starting there, I would definitely advocate for that. The cut in the custodial security staff is, falls right in line with that.
I mean, I'm happy
this way, Steve. Just so just to put a thought out there, if we have something that's not in the budget and we have to add it as a COVID expense, we might be eligible for a reimbursement. Whereas if it's in our regular standard budget, it's not going to be reimbursable. So I honestly would make the argument of once we know about a possible grant, which I gotta believe will be out there for COVID expenses, a security, a cleaning, a maintenance things could be justified as COVID needing expenses, and I would look at it that way. There are going to be funds out there, without a doubt.
Yeah, I guess it's what level of risk do we want to take? But
I'm taking big risks.
To me, that maintenance item has always been a problem. It was on the top of their list for restoration. It was the last thing cut. There have been cuts to maintenance or reductions in this year. There have been freezes, and there's just, to me, that's just get back to your basic operations, and that isn't even restoring what the school system had been running at as a steady state. So, I hear you, Mike. If we want to support Joe in that one or in the custodians, but again, it's just my concern if, I don't have all the answers there, but that's sort of where I'm
looking. That's the beauty of this fun job. Let's go through this list, Heidi, with us. And then we'll loop back once we plug some numbers in. How's that?
Yes. Did you want the spreadsheet up, Brent, Mike?
So basically what you've got here is the insurance adjustments, both in the town and Board of Ed, adjustment pension, just an updated number, Adjustment on the Monroe Volunteer Fire Department, the IT and the capital reserve adjustments, right? Okay. So do you have those? Can we roll those into the spreadsheet, or have you rolled them in?
Yes, I took the liberty of rolling these into the spreadsheet that we worked on with the fund balance. So
Beautiful. Let's bring that one up then.
So, Mike, Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance. So this first one that was up did not contain the salary reduction savings, right? So that's in another sheet.
Yeah, Mike, this is Ron Banofsky, Director of Finance. Yeah, that's in another, that's not in a sheet at all, Steve. Those numbers were given at last week's meeting, and we have them refined, but they're not on the sheet.
Got it. But you've got them, the adjustment in here? We can go through it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Just to show you where it is in the budget.
Please mention, right.
So as you go, Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance. So Heidi, as you're going through this, is there a place that totals up all employee, as if all the employees across the board, across the town took a freeze, or is this going to be account by account kind of stuff?
No, it's on there's one line on the Board of Ed, and there'll be one line in contingency, right?
That's correct. It's a total of $1,220,916.
1,220,916. 1,220,916, if I heard you correct, Heidi?
That's correct.
And Heidi, was that the total, or was that?
That's the total. Town is 309,345. Board of Ed is 911,571.
Okay. That's roughly what we heard last time. So
right. Okay. All right. So where does that put us on total adjustments? My eyes aren't that good. Any way to make that bigger?
You want me to make it bigger? I can make it bigger.
Hey, look at that for the old guys.
Mike, if you move your cursor to the right, the piece will pop up that has pluses and minuses, so you can control your screen as well.
Look at that. I love these tech guys.
Is that better? I don't know if you're going to be able to see
much better.
Yeah, you'll just have to scroll.
Okay.
1490. Interesting. Because our original target was 15, right?
Bringing it down here, keeping in the 93%. You're at 35.48 for the mill rate. Is Mike there?
I think he took a phone call.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys. Work gets in the way every once in a while. All right, so we were just under 1,000,005, and at a 93, that pulls us to 35.48. Okay. Okay. All right, so the changes we made basically were the insurance is just more accurate numbers, and that's based on the 8.5% like we discussed, not 10% increase, but not, cutting it all the way back. So we got a little bit of conservative budgeting there, right?
That's correct, Mike. Ron Banofsky, Director of Finance. It kind of split it right down the middle to give us a little contingency there.
Okay, so this basically gives us a slight reduction in the mill rate. It won't obviously lower or bring down everybody's taxes because we do have the reval, so some people will still have a small tax increase, right? Just so everybody's clear on that.
Yeah, Mike, Ken Keller, I can address that if you'd like.
Please.
Yeah, asking our assessor to kind of do the look at the average of the median assessment increase on residential is about 1.88%. So yes, I mean, you will have obviously some that will, based upon their new valuation, some will go up, some will go down. But I am told that is the median reval impact to residential properties.
Got it. Now, I know we talked about the mill rate. I mean, we did all the calculations for the collection rate. Does anybody have any further thoughts on the 93? I know we did math to get there, but that's a big, obviously, everything else.
No, I mean, I've read things at other towns that's probably a very, Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance, that's a very conservative number. So that's the question is it too conservative? But,
It definitely is I believe it is a conservative number. There's no question about it. But I've also read some of the stuff that other towns are doing, which I think is insane because I just think it's factoring in I don't know what you want to call it, but, I'm looking at it as a lot closer to a depression than a recession. When you have unemployment numbers like this and businesses in the position they're in.
Yeah, because I was just reading an article where, like they said, 61% of the people across the country are not going to be eligible for like mortgage assistance, depending on what the wording and everything that's in there and qualifications. So I think we need to be a little bit conservative. Again, it goes back to that argument where we can, see where we are financially, and if the money is coming in, we can make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah, and I mean the bottom line is if we collect higher than that, all we're going to do is take less fund balance. I mean that's for the thing. Yeah, so that's the only thing that would change it.
Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance. Yeah, Mike, I'm going to go back to education for a moment, only because, we're talking about doing things in August or September or whatever, but there's obviously things that they may need to do over the summer. I know that there was a program that was reduced, the summer reading program. They had an alternative. Again, going back to students needing more assistance given what they've experienced, this semester. If we're too conservative, yeah, we can restore things later, but not things that are past in time.
But again, you're making the assumption that they're starting time, which I think is a fundamental assumption right now, or what level they're starting. I mean, again, I go back to the argument that you don't know, I don't know, the superintendent doesn't know, and can pretty much tell us that he doesn't know what his needs are.
Hey, Mike, it's Rebecca.
Go ahead.
Someone has their radio on or something. It's very distracting in the background. If we
It's
could just
probably me.
remind
I'll
people.
turn it down.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I have a bunch of kids who work here, so yeah, there's a lot of music and screaming usually going on. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Fine.
I was just gonna say mute your lines if you're on the phone, but
Maybe he just walked away.
Hey, Ron. Hey, Ron, what does, so right now this is assuming a collection rate of 93%. What does a 0.5% mean? If it goes up to 93.5 or down to 92, what's the dollar value to about a 0.5%?
I'm gonna have Heidi plug that in. Hang on a sec.
All right, we still got music playing. I'm sorry. Where were we at?
Mike, you missed a question from Joe to Ron.
Yeah, I was just asking Ron. Right now, you guys are assuming a 93% collection rate.
Yeah.
That's definitely not my area of expertise, but I was just curious. What is a 0.5% or what is a percent? A 0.5%. What does that
That's
equal?
the fun of having a model. Plunk it in at 93.5 and see what it looks like.
That's what I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Give me a sec on that. I'll figure out what a mill is.
You can get it to me tomorrow, Ron. It's not a big. I thought it was just an easy plug and place. I was just curious to know. We're looking at cuts on our end, and if the rate is up a little bit more, what does that actually mean? I know some of the information, in some of the conversations with concessions has been about, what is the actual need, and so to be able to at least have that figure, if that, if the collection rate changes, is important.
That's
416,000.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's big.
Thanks, Ron.
Just Ron, for one more second, plug it back in. I didn't see what the calculation was at 93.5. Okay, so it comes down to 0.82 down. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, to Joe's point, I mean the reduction we're looking for is basically the raises is it. I think the biggest thing is if it was agreed to, and if it was agreed to on the town side, we wouldn't have to cut staff. And I think in this environment and what I'm reading, I know Fairfield put theirs together today and was asking for a freeze. They're doing the same thing. California's asking for a 10% thing. I think, I think it's not that it's any ask today is an unreasonable ask, but in the current environment, I think it's a necessary ask. And I think, leaving it at 93 or 94, having the fund balance, if it comes in that, come August or September, things are hitting at 98, we can reveal everything we want because all the money will be there. But if we're not there, then, or if we're in a worse situation, or if it comes back up and they're back remote again, all the requests that are in the Board of Ed budget change. Because if transportation wasn't needed, look at the savings that would be. Huge. As we saw just from being out for, a couple months this year. So, again, I'm not willing to, or think it makes prudent sense to add back anything until we have a much better, clearer picture. So my feeling is the approach we've taken makes sense. We're just cutting raises. We're not trying to cut services. We're being super conservative on collection rate. We're taking a big risk with spending our rainy day fund. And I hope everybody appreciates what that risk is, because I'm not convinced not all the employees realize that we are making choices that are difficult to make, and it's very risky. And believe me, a lot of people have contacted me to tell me I'm crazy to spend our savings, but I'm willing to do it to try to maintain services and maintain the same staffing level that we had coming into this. And that's what we're doing. We're basically coming into this, with what was given us, which is exactly what we did last year with the Board of Ed budget. We left it as it came to us. Obviously, it didn't work out as well as we had hoped because there were some problems with it, but we didn't leave the Board of Ed hanging out to dry when they had problems. We helped them through their problems. Not once did anyone in this board say just start cutting heads because you have a deficit. So I don't think anybody should think that we're going to do that going forward, but we also need some cooperation here. And I think that's what we're proposing. So I'm a big believer in letting it fly the way we've got it. I think it's prudent, I think it's conservative, and I think it sends the right message to the voters who are putting all their trust in us now. And I think we can logically explain it, and I plan on logically writing all this out, that it's very clear what we've done and why and what we think we'll have to do in the future.
Hey, Mike, it's Rebecca O'Donnell. I have a question. In the past, to build the rainy day fund, what was the strategy for that? Because what is it we have to plan going forward?
What we did going forward was our collections have typically run much higher than the 98.7 that we budget. So our collection rate was always budgeted at 98.7, and Manny would always tell you he would collect 100 to 101, and that overage on the collections built our fund balance. And we were able to have some pickups in expenses over the years. And when the Board of Ed had pickup in expenses, we didn't take that money back. We put it into the reserve funds, in the capital reserves. So we've worked with the Board of Ed to let them, when they had savings, keep them. And on the downside, when we had savings and we had revenues above projections, we built the fund balance. And we did that over a course of almost 10 years. Some years quite significantly, some years, lower. And some people argued that, oh, you're overtaxing me because you got more money than you needed. Well, yes, we did, but we built the rainy day fund because of it. So now we're going to lower the taxes because of that. So what we'll have to do, we won't go back to a 99% collection rate no matter what. We'll have to probably build a 98.5, 99 collection, 98.7 collection rate. It was 98.5. I pushed Manny on it to get him up to 98.7, which is full teeth. But that's basically how we do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I just wanted that background.
No, it's good. Good question.
And Mike, Steve Kirsch, Board of Finance, and I think there's also one other piece, and that was a few years ago when we had all the issues with the state and we were extremely conservative, and then we got some they didn't cut us the way some of the concerns were, so we were able to.
Yeah, we picked up about $1 million that way. No question.
We picked up about $1 million. So if you, Rebecca, if you look at the charts, and I'm not sure it was in the first selectman's presentation or not this year, but you'll see there was a point in time where we had in 1 year where we had a pretty big jump, and that was from that. But, notwithstanding everything else Mike said, so we're just going to have to go back to doing that. Now, hopefully, we will, the collections won't be as bad as we're planning. We may get COVID money. And so I agree with, I agree with all of that. And we just, I do support the budget. It's got risks in it. And, people are going to have to understand that, if the collection rate is what we're saying and we end up spending our rainy day fund, we're not going to be able to dip into that bucket next year. And, the chairman has made it clear, even on the town council meeting the other night, that, a year from now, we will be looking at, higher than normal tax increases. Because
let's get it on the record. Much higher than normal.
Much high. Well, fine. I'm not going to put words in chairman's mouth. But yes, that's what he said, and that's certainly what I understand. And the citizens should recognize, that.
And that's a great point, Steve. I appreciate you bringing that up, because one of the things, again, the other option we could take would be to, cut every department across the board 10%. And
I don't favor that.
I think no, I think it's madness.
Right. I think that, one of the things that we have to do, that I think we have a responsibility to do, is to try and preserve the services, not just to the Board of Ed. I mean, as a town, my feeling's always been, any town, city, government, you've got to provide for health and safety of your citizens. You've got to provide for education, as your top couple of priorities. But the thing that makes the town so good and so valuable is that we provide things for everybody across the board. We provide libraries, we provide the senior center, we provide the parks, and I think that that's important, that we provide things for everybody, for all segments of our community. And I don't want to see cuts in services. And
I don't think we did that at all. So, I mean, that's why I'm very proud of the work we did here. All right. Anybody got anything else?
Hey, Mike, it's John. So I was actually thinking if we looked at a higher collection rate, but given the fact that we're taking such a deep cut out of our rainy day fund, I'd rather err on the side of what you're suggesting, be very conservative on that side. Whatever we get above that rebuilds our fund. And
correct. Yeah, like my hope would be you'll only end up
up
using $5 million out of the fund, not $8 million. You know what I mean?
Sure. I think that's more reasonable. And then we've got more money in case there's extra expenses on the Board of Ed side that we need to talk about. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, this is Greg. Just agree with John and everything we're talking about here. So I'm good.
All right. Rebecca, anything else on your side besides you loving music?
No, that was
salsa
great.
now.
Little Madonna going on.
Oh my God. You have no idea what my life is like here. Dane, anything on your side?
No, I would just be repeating what we already talked about.
Great. Ken, anything on you want to plug in on this side?
Thanks, Mike. No, Ken Keller, First Selectman. No, I just want to thank this board for taking this really unusual responsibility that's been placed upon you as seriously as you have. I know that you spent a lot of time and taken a lot of input, and this is not an easy task. And so I really just want to commend this board and Mike, your leadership as well in pulling this all together. And it's I appreciate the attempt. Everyone's trying to be very collaborative. as you said earlier, I think we enjoy a very healthy relationship between the municipality and the Board of Ed side. Great respect for everything Joe is doing, and appreciate his partnership. And I know that you're all trying to make some very difficult decisions, and I think you're doing a phenomenal job attempting to create the right balance between a lot of challenging concerns and priorities that are out there. So I appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you. All right.
Mike, Steve Kirsch.
Steve, yep.
Question, going back to the motion for Tuesday night, it's going to be one motion, but it's going to contain all of the individual sections, if you would, that we normally do? Okay,
Correct.
Fine. Got it.
Exactly. Yep. And that was the recommendation of the town attorney, which we reached out to find out how we could make our life a little easier on Zoom.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that
You don't want 30 roll
wanted to
call.
make sure we were capturing
my
each
God.
of the elements.
Correct.
I just
Yes.
wanna make
They'll
sure
all
we're
be drawn out and we can bring attention to any of them.
Yep.
All right.
I'm good.
Everybody good?
All good.
Make a motion?
Steve Kirsch, motion to adjourn.
Second. That was great.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the hard work. See you Tuesday.